Tesseract Earth, an escalation beyond even torus Earth from the previous iceberg. Where flat earthers claim a disk and torus earthers claim a donut, Tesseract Earth claims our planet exists as a four-dimensional hypercube, a tesseract, and that what we perceive as a three-dimensional sphere is merely one face of a higher dimensional structure. The theory borrows the word tesseract from legitimate mathematics, where it describes a four-dimensional analog of a cube and builds an entirely unfalsifiable cosmology around it. It represents the logical endpoint of alternative shape Earth theories, each one requiring a more exotic geometry than the last. Incan airplanes. Among the artifacts recovered from pre-Columbian Colombian and Peruvian sites are small gold figurines that bear a striking resemblance to modern aircraft delta-winged shapes with what look like vertical stabilizers and cockpits. Mainstream archaeologists identify them as stylized representations of birds or fish, which is consistent with the artistic traditions of the cultures that made them. Ancient astronaut theorists and alternative historians claim they are scale models of actual flying vehicles used by or shown to pre-Columbian peoples, and that some researchers have built enlarged versions that allegedly fly. The evidence is almost entirely based on visual resemblance, which is a notoriously unreliable standard. Bermuda Triangle is a portal. The Bermuda Triangle, the region between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, became infamous in the 1960s and 70s for allegedly anomalous disappearances of ships and aircraft. Careful analysis by researchers like Lawrence David Cush found that the disappearances were neither more frequent nor more mysterious than in any other heavily trafficked stretch of ocean, and that many of the most dramatic cases involved invented or exaggerated details. Despite being largely debunked as a statistical artifact, it remains culturally powerful. The portal theory holds that the triangle is a dimensional gateway, possibly to another time, another universe, or an underwater alien base, explaining why wreckage is sometimes never found. Buzz Aldrin, the second man to walk on the moon, has become a conspiracy figure for several reasons. He famously punched conspiracy theorist Bart Sibrel in the face in 2002 when Sibrel ambushed him and demanded he swear on a Bible that the moon landing was real, an incident that became legendary. More seriously, Aldrin has made genuine public statements about seeing an unidentified object during the Apollo 11 mission, which he later clarified was probably a panel that had separated from the spacecraft. He has also spoken publicly about the need for humanity to confront what he called a monolith on Mars' moon Phobos, a genuine, unexplained rectangular formation. Conspiracy theorists treat his statements as inadvertent disclosure of suppressed truths. Clockwork elves, a term coined by ethnobotanist Terence McKenna to describe entities encountered during DMT experiences, small, self-transforming, language-like beings that appear to inhabit a separate dimension accessible through the psychedelic compound dimethyltryptamine. McKenna described them as self-dribbling jeweled basketballs that communicate by making objects rather than speaking. Remarkably, the consistency of these reports across thousands of independent DMT users, people describing nearly identical entities without prior knowledge of each other's experiences, has attracted genuine scientific interest. Researchers at Johns Hopkins have studied DMT entity encounters. The conspiracy angle is that these entities are real beings from another dimension, and that DMT is suppressed because it grants access to a reality governments don't want people to know exists. We are fed negative energy on purpose, a theory rooted in both New Age spirituality and conspiracy thinking, claiming that media, music, news, architecture, food, and social systems are deliberately designed to keep human populations in states of fear, stress, anxiety, and low-frequency emotional states. The reason varies by version. Some claim negative emotional energy is harvested as a literal resource by elites or non-human entities, drawing on ideas from Gnostic and Archon mythology. Others frame it more psychologically, arguing that fearful, anxious populations are more controllable and less likely to question authority. The former version connects to theories about reptilian entities feeding on loosh, a term from Robert Monroe's out-of-body experience research, while the latter is a more grounded media criticism dressed in conspiratorial language. Mars pyramids. NASA's Viking orbiter photographed a region of Mars called Cydonia in 1976, revealing a formation that looked strikingly like a humanoid face. Later, higher-resolution images showed it to be an ordinary mesa shaped by wind erosion. But the same region contains several mound formations that some researchers claim are geometrically arranged pyramids. Richard Hoagland has spent decades arguing that Cydonia contains the ruins of an ancient Martian civilization, with mathematical relationships between the structures encoding advanced knowledge. NASA scientists attribute all of it to natural geology and the human brain's tendency to find patterns and faces in random shapes, a phenomenon called pareidolia. Tachyon particles. Tachyons are a theoretical class of particles proposed in physics that would, if they exist, travel faster than light, and therefore, according to special relativity, move backward in time. No tachyon has ever been detected, and most physicists consider them either impossible or at best a mathematical curiosity. In fringe science and conspiracy theory, tachyons have become a catch-all explanation for anything requiring faster-than-light communication, time travel, psychic phenomena, or zero-point energy. Tachyon energy, products, pendants, water, blankets are sold in alternative health markets claiming to harness this theoretical particle for healing. The gap between the speculative physics concept and the commercial exploitation of the word is enormous. Life is an unproven theory, a philosophical provocation that deliberately misapplies scientific standards. The argument goes that life, as a category, has no universally agreed scientific definition. Biologists genuinely debate whether viruses are alive, whether fire meets life criteria, and where exactly the boundary between chemistry and biology lies. Therefore, the existence of life as a distinct phenomenon is technically unproven in the same way a scientific theory is unproven. It's a sophistic argument, the kind that sounds logically tight until you examine it, but it points toward genuine philosophical uncertainty about what distinguishes living from non-living processes, and by extension what consciousness, experience, and existence actually are. Project Blue Beam. One of the more elaborate conspiracy theories ever constructed, originally proposed by Canadian journalist Serge Monast in 1994. The theory claims NASA and the United Nations are planning a staged second coming, using advanced holographic projection technology to beam images of religious figures across the sky worldwide, combined with a faked alien invasion, in order to create a single world religion and justify a global government takeover. Monast claimed the project had 4 steps, involving rewritten archaeological history, a global hologram show, telepathic electronic mind control, and a staged alien invasion. He died of a heart attack in 1996, which his followers attributed to assassination. The theory has proven extraordinarily durable despite having no supporting evidence. Spaces in binary code. A claim originating from an image that circulated online showing what appeared to be binary code embedded in a photograph of deep space. The theory holds that the universe is a simulation and that this binary data is literal code underlying the fabric of reality, essentially the source code of the simulation leaking through. The original image was almost certainly manipulated or misidentified, but the theory connects to legitimate simulation theory arguments about the mathematical nature of physical laws, and to physicist John Wheeler's it from bit hypothesis that information is the fundamental substrate of reality. 9/11 was by the U.S. The theory that the September 11th attacks were either orchestrated or deliberately allowed by elements within the U.S. government, a so-called inside job. This is one of the most widespread conspiracy theories in the world, with polls consistently showing large minorities in many countries believing some version of it. The evidence cited includes the collapse of Building 7, the alleged impossibility of the Pentagon attack geometry, put options placed on airline stocks before the attacks, and the convenient justification the attacks provided for the invasion of Afghanistan and Iraq, and the passage of the Patriot Act. The official investigations and the overwhelming weight of forensic, structural, and testimonial evidence support the mainstream account, but the scale and consequences of the attacks make the psychological appeal of a more controllable explanation powerful. The cure for cancer is silenced. The belief that effective cures for cancer, possibly simple, cheap, or natural ones, have been discovered and suppressed by pharmaceutical companies, governments, and medical establishments to protect the enormously profitable cancer treatment industry. Variants include claims about specific suppressed treatments like Brzezinski's antineoplastins, cannabis oil, Rife machines, and various vitamin and dietary protocols. The reality of cancer is that it is not one disease but hundreds, each with different mechanisms, which is why there is no single cure. Genuine oncology research is extensive, international, and largely publicly funded, making a global suppression conspiracy logistically implausible. But the fear, cost, and suffering associated with cancer make this theory emotionally very compelling. Mind-controlled music. The theory that popular music is deliberately engineered, not just psychologically but technically, to manipulate listeners. This includes claims that certain frequencies, particularly 440 Hz tuning, standard concert pitch, are deliberately disharmonious and anxiety-inducing, while 432 Hz is the natural frequency of the universe and was suppressed by the Nazis and later standardized globally to keep populations in discord. It also includes theories about backward masking, hidden satanic messages in music played in reverse, and more recently claims that specific artists are MK Ultra subjects whose music is programmed with hypnotic triggers. The frequency theory has no scientific support. Human hearing is not sensitive enough to the difference to produce measurable psychological effects. The final understanding. This entry is deliberately vague and functions more as an ominous label than a specific theory, a placeholder for whatever the ultimate truth is that all other conspiracy theories are orbiting without quite reaching. It implies that there is a single, unified explanation connecting all conspiracies, all hidden knowledge, and all suppressed truth, and that arriving at it would be so destabilizing that it cannot be stated directly. It's a recursive conspiracy theory, the conspiracy to hide the master conspiracy. Its vagueness is its power, because it can absorb any new information and remain unfalsifiable. The Vatican is the beast. A theory with roots in Protestant Reformation-era theology and continuing into modern times, the identification of the Roman Catholic Church, the Pope, or Vatican City itself as the beast of Revelation, the Antichrist, or the whore of Babylon described in the Bible's final book. Various popes have been identified as the Antichrist by various Protestant sects since the 16th century. Modern versions connect the Vatican to Freemasonry, the Illuminati, child of networks, control of world banking, and the suppression of the original Bible. The Vatican's genuine historical crimes and its extraordinary wealth and political influence give this theory more grounding than many, even if the theological framework is contested. Knowledge paradox. The observation, elevated to conspiracy status here, that the more you know, the more you realize how much is unknown, hidden, or unknowable. At a certain depth of research into any conspiracy topic, you encounter not answers but deeper questions, more contradictions, and more apparent layers of concealment. The paradox is that the pursuit of hidden knowledge seems to generate more uncertainty rather than less, raising the question of whether knowledge itself is being structured to prevent anyone from reaching a stable, complete understanding. This bleeds into genuine epistemological concerns about how we verify anything and whether certain truths are structurally inaccessible. The rapture already happened. A deeply unsettling theological theory, not that the rapture is coming, but that it already occurred silently, and that nobody noticed because so few people qualified. In the Left Behind mythology, the rapture is a dramatic event where millions of Christians are taken to heaven simultaneously. The silent rapture theory suggests it happened without fanfare, taking perhaps a handful of people, and that we are already living in the post-rapture world, the tribulation period, without realizing it. It reframes all of current history as the end times already in progress, with everyone already left behind. Theologically, it is a minority position, but it has a genuinely haunting quality. One of the more obscure entries across all these icebergs. This appears to reference deep internet urban legends about strange, recurring figures or patterns found in webcam footage. The idea that background figures, anomalies, or entities appear consistently across unrelated webcam feeds worldwide, suggesting either a coordinated presence or something that moves through the visual layer of the internet itself. It connects to broader, internet as haunted space, mythology, and the genuinely strange things that have been found in long-running public webcam archives. North Korea equals utopia. The inversion of the mainstream understanding of North Korea, the claim that Western media's portrayal of North Korea as a dystopian nightmare is entirely fabricated propaganda, and that the country is in reality a functioning, happy, self-sufficient society that has successfully resisted Western imperialism and corporate globalization. Some versions claim North Korea is the last country operating outside the global banking system, and that its citizens are genuinely content and cared for by their government. This requires dismissing the testimony of every defector, every satellite image of the country at night showing near total darkness, and every account from the vanishingly small number of outsiders who have visited. It is a theory born entirely from reflexive contrarianism toward Western media narratives. Infinity paradox. A conceptual black hole, the idea that infinity itself is paradoxical, and that accepting genuine infinity as real leads to logical contradictions that undermine all of mathematics, physics, and rational thought. This has a legitimate mathematical history. Cantor's work on infinity drove him to mental breakdown, and his results were initially rejected by contemporaries. The conspiracy extension claims that establishment mathematics deliberately papers over these contradictions, because acknowledging them would collapse the entire edifice of modern physics, and with it, the technological and social control systems built on that physics. Immortality-induced amnesia. The theory that human beings are actually immortal souls who reincarnate continuously, but that each new incarnation comes with complete amnesia of all previous lives, and that this amnesia is not a natural feature of reincarnation, but is deliberately induced by some external force or system to prevent humans from accumulating wisdom, power, and memory across lifetimes. Sometimes called the soul trap or reincarnation prison theory, it posits that the white light seen in near-death experiences is not a welcoming divine presence, but a lure designed to draw souls back into the cycle of amnesia and rebirth, preventing them from escaping to genuine freedom. It is one of the most cosmically bleak theories on any of these icebergs. God's last wish. The deepest entry, and deliberately the most ambiguous. This could refer to several things: a theological position that God is dying or has died and left a final directive for reality, a fringe cosmological theory about the universe's ultimate fate being the expression of a divine final intention, or simply a label for the unknowable terminal truth that sits beneath all other knowledge. Like the final understanding, 2 tiers above it, its power comes entirely from vagueness and implication. It suggests that at the absolute bottom of everything, beneath all conspiracies, all hidden knowledge, all paradoxes, there is something that can only be described in terms of divinity and finality. Whether that is comforting or terrifying is left entirely to the reader. That was the final part and concludes the conspiracy theory iceberg. If you enjoyed these videos, please leave a like and comment any other theories I missed. Make sure to subscribe to the channel to not miss any uploads. Thanks for watching.